Let's begin with one that almost no one believes exists, the 1986 silver Washington quarter. At first glance, this coin might not look like much. In fact, most of them appear dull, worn, and scratched, like this one here, in bad condition. But don't let the surface fool you. Beneath that tarnish lies something incredibly rare, a 90% silver quarter that technically shouldn't even exist. Here's why this coin makes collectors' jaws drop. By 1986, the US Mint had stopped using silver in regular quarters for over 2 decades. Since 1965, all circulating Washington quarters were made of copper and nickel, not silver. So, if you find a 1986 quarter that tests positive for silver content, you might just be holding a mint error of monumental proportions. Imagine this. A blank silver planchet, a leftover from earlier commemorative or proof runs, accidentally fed into the press during 1986's regular quarter production. The result? A 1986 dated quarter struck on a silver planchet, something that officially should never have left the mint floor. Collectors call these off-metal strikes, and they are among the rarest mint errors ever recorded. Most examples are believed to have been melted down, but a handful may have slipped through undetected, ending up in everyday circulation, mixed in with ordinary pocket change. Now, let's talk value. In bad condition, like this one, the coin might look worthless to the untrained eye, but its rarity changes everything. Even a damaged or circulated 1986 silver strike can command between $8,000 to $15,000, simply because so few are known to exist. But here's where things get unbelievable. If you were to find this same 1986 quarter in uncirculated condition, bright, with crisp details, and that unmistakable silver luster, its auction value could skyrocket into the $250,000 to $400,000 range. And if it's confirmed as a mint error with original silver composition through metallurgical testing, some numismatic experts estimate it could exceed $500,000 at the right auction. Yes, over $500,000 for a single quarter. The thought alone is staggering. A 25-cent coin from the mid-80s worth more than a luxury home. But the key is in knowing how to identify one. Hold your 1986 quarter under bright light. If it lacks the copper-colored edge seen on regular modern quarters, and instead shows a consistent silver tone from front to back, that's your first clue. It should also feel slightly heavier, about 6.25 grams. Compared to the standard 5.67 grams of a normal copper-nickel piece, collectors also look for faint die cracks, double strikes, or planchet misalignments, all hints that the coin didn't follow normal minting rules. If you suspect you've found one, do not clean it ever. Cleaning can destroy thousands of dollars in collector value. Instead, have it certified by a reputable grading service like PCGs or NGC, which can verify its metal composition and strike authenticity. The story behind this coin captures everything collectors love about the hobby: mystery, history, and the thrill of discovery. A simple pocket find that defies all logic. It's the kind of coin that keeps us digging through old jars, inherited collections, and dusty rolls from banks, just hoping lightning might strike twice. And that's just the beginning. Because as unbelievable as the 1986 silver quarter sounds, the next one on our list climbs even higher in rarity and in value. You won't believe what the next coin sold for when it hit the auction block. Now, moving on to a coin that has stunned even veteran collectors. The 1982 silver Washington quarter. At first glance, you might think, wait, there were no silver quarters in the 1980s. And you'd be right, officially, there weren't. That's what makes this one so incredibly rare. Because every now and then, something slips through the cracks at the US Mint. And when that happens, legends are born. The 1982 Washington quarter is famous not for what it was supposed to be, but for what a few of them turned out to be by pure accident. 1982 was a year of major change. The mint was cutting costs, experimenting with planchets, and producing both proof and uncirculated sets in San Francisco. During that transition, a few leftover, 90% silver planchets from the early commemorative runs somehow found their way into regular quarter production presses, and out came a small number of 1982 quarters struck on silver planchets. Never meant for circulation. Now imagine you come across one in extra fine condition. Like this one. Sharp details, light wear on Washington's hair, and that brilliant white silver surface shining back at you. To most people, it's just another quarter, but to collectors, it's a ghost, a mistake that was never supposed to exist. Let's talk value, because this is where your jaw will drop. In average circulated condition, these off-metal 1982 quarters have sold for between $7,000 and $12,000. But in extra fine condition, the price jumps dramatically. Coins graded XF40 or better, verified as struck on silver, have been known to sell for $65,000 to $120,000. And when you move into the mint state range, bright surfaces, minimal marks, perfectly struck, the record prices go absolutely sky high. One confirmed silver struck 1982 quarter reportedly crossed the $300,000 mark at auction. That's right, a single quarter that could buy a luxury sports car. And experts believe fewer than 10 genuine examples exist, making it one of the rarest post-1964 quarters ever produced by the U.S. Mint. So, how can you tell if your 1982 quarter might be one of these elusive treasures? Start with the edge. Normal quarters made after 1965 have that distinct copper line running through the side, but the silver strike doesn't. It's solid, uniform silver all the way through. Next, weigh it. A genuine silver quarter will tip the scale at around 6.25 grams, while a standard clad version weighs only 5.67 grams. That tiny difference could mean the world. And here's something most people miss: the sound. Drop it gently on a wooden surface. If you hear a crisp, ringing chime instead of a dull clank, you might just be holding one of the rarest modern U.S. quarters in history. Collectors love this coin because it bridges two eras: the silver age of pre-1965 coinage and the modern clad era. It's the mint's unintentional time capsule, a mistake that turned into one of the most sought-after discoveries in numismatic history. But imagine the thrill: someone sorting through a handful of 1980 seconds change, spotting that silver shine, and realizing it's worth hundreds of thousands. Stories like these are what make the hobby addictive. It's not just about the money, it's about uncovering pieces of history that were never supposed to exist. So, the next time you come across a 1982 quarter in your collection, especially one that looks unusually bright or heavy, don't ignore it. You could be staring at a six-figure piece of U.S. mint history. Next up, we move to one of the most shocking discoveries of all, the 1996D silver Washington quarter. Now, just hearing that date might not stir much excitement at first. After all, 1996 quarters are everywhere. Most of us probably still have a few lying around in jars or old drawers. But here's the twist. While millions of 1996 quarters were struck in Denver using standard copper-nickel composition, a tiny handful were mysteriously struck on solid silver planchets. A blunder so unbelievable that even mint insiders struggled to explain how it happened. Picture this: Denver, 1996. The mint is running full production for regular circulation quarters. At the same time, the San Francisco Mint is striking 90% silver-proof coins for collector sets. Somewhere in the supply line, a few of those silver blanks meant only for the San Francisco proofs accidentally got mixed into Denver's regular batch. The presses struck them, stamped that bold D mint mark, and sent them into circulation, and that's where the legend began. Today, the 1996D silver quarter is one of the most talked about modern rarities in American coinage. It's living proof that miracles still happen in minting and that hidden treasures still pass through everyday hands. Now, let's talk about what an extra fine example means. When a coin survives decades of circulation, yet still holds crisp detail. Washington's hairline's clear, the eagle's feathers sharp, that's a collector's dream. In extra fine condition, the coin glows with that silver brilliance, a telltale sign that you're not looking at ordinary clad metal. But here's where it gets truly astonishing. The value a standard 1996D quarter is worth, well, 25 cents. But if yours turns out to be one of these off-metal silver strikes, its worth jumps from pocket change to pure shock. In average circulated condition, confirmed examples have sold for between $10,000 and $25,000. But when you step into extra fine, the value leaps dramatically. Collectors have paid upwards of $75,000 to $150,000 for authenticated examples, and if one ever appears in uncirculated or near mint state, experts estimate it could break the $400,000 mark at auction. That's right, a quarter worth nearly $500,000, struck by accident, and now hunted by collectors worldwide. So, how can you tell if you've found one? Start with the edge, no copper stripe. Instead, it should be a pure silver tone, smooth and even. Next, test the weight. It should come in at approximately 6.25 grams, not the lighter 5.67 grams of modern clad quarters. Hold it under good light. If you see that rich silver shine, brighter than usual, you may just have found something extraordinary, even more interesting. A few known examples of these 19960 silver quarters display faint die rotation errors, where the reverse image is slightly misaligned with the obverse. That subtle twist makes them even rarer, and collectors pay a serious premium for that anomaly. But here's the emotional part. Imagine the story this coin tells. Someone once used it at a gas station, maybe for a morning coffee or a parking meter, never realizing they just spent what could have been their retirement fund. Decades later, that same quarter resurfaces, discovered by a sharp-eyed collector with a magnifier and a bit of luck. That's the magic of U.S. mint mysteries. The idea that unimaginable value can hide in plain sight. It's why collectors across America still check their change every day. Now, we journey back to 1966, a year that changed everything in U.S. coinage history. It was the end of an era, and the beginning of one of the greatest mysteries in Washington quarter collecting. You see, by 1966, the U.S. Mint had officially ended silver circulation coins. Since 1965, quarters were made with the copper-nickel-clad composition, no more 90% silver. The country had moved on, but as collectors have learned, the mint's transition was far from perfect. In the confusion of those years, a few silver planchets leftovers from the 1964 mintage accidentally made their way into the presses. And what they created was a miracle. The 1966 silver Washington quarter. Imagine holding one in your hand, a coin that shouldn't exist. In extra fine condition, like the one we're looking at, you can still see Washington's profile with sharp detail. The word Liberty bold across the top. And that faint silver gleam that instantly sets it apart from the duller, gray-toned clad versions. It's the kind of coin that sends chills down the spine of anyone who knows the story. Here's what makes it so special. During 1965 to 1967, the mint suspended mint marks and proof sets to discourage hoarding. But despite the chaos, a few leftover silver blanks remained in production bins. When those blanks were accidentally struck with 1966 dies, the result was one of the most extraordinary mint errors of the decade, and a mystery that continues to fascinate collectors today. Let's talk about what that means in terms of value. In well-worn, circulated condition, one of these rare off-metal strikes can bring $6,000 to $10,000. But when you step up to extra fine condition, with that crisp definition still intact, and the unmistakable brightness of silver, the value climbs fast, often ranging between $45,000 and $85,000. And here's where things get unreal. An authenticated 1966 quarter struck on a leftover silver planchet, fully uncirculated and verified by PCGs, once fetched a jaw-dropping $325,000 at auction. That's over $250,000 for a coin that looks almost identical to the one in your pocket right now. So, how can you tell if you've stumbled upon one of these legends? Start with the basics. Hold your 1966 quarter on its edge. If you see that copper-colored band, it's just the common clad version. But if the edge is pure silver, smooth and uniform all the way around, you might be onto something. Next, weigh it. Silver quarters should weigh around 6.25 grams, while the normal clad ones come in at about 5.67 grams. That tiny difference is all it takes to separate a life-changing find from an ordinary coin. Many collectors also listen for the sound. Drop it gently on a wooden table. Silver sings a high, ringing tone that stands out instantly from the dull clink of copper nickel. If you hear that ring, your heart might just skip a beat. Every now and then, a silver planchet 1966 quarter surfaces, sending shockwaves through the coin community. Some are found in estate sales, others in old collections, and a few simply pulled from forgotten jars of change. Each discovery reignites the same wonder. How many more could still be out there? What makes this story so powerful is that these coins weren't supposed to survive. They slipped past the mint's strict controls, out into circulation, and into the hands of everyday Americans who had no idea what they were spending. Somewhere, decades ago, someone used a coin like this for a cup of coffee, and today, that very same quarter could pay for an entire home. Next up, we travel to 1967, a year of change, confusion, and coinage chaos in America's minting history. Most collectors know that by this time, silver was supposed to be long gone from quarters. But what if I told you that a few 1967 Washington quarters were secretly struck on leftover silver planchets? Coins that were never supposed to exist, yet somehow slipped through the mint's fingers. Let's dive in. The 1967 quarter is part of what collectors call the transitional era. The mint had just phased out silver in 1965 and was struggling to meet massive coin shortages across the nation. To speed things up, they suspended mint marks and pumped out millions of new copper nickel-clad quarters. But as history shows, when production speeds up, mistakes happen. And one of the greatest minting mistakes of all time occurred during this exact period. Somewhere in the process, a few leftover 90% silver planchets from 1964 or early proof runs were accidentally mixed into the presses. The dies struck 1967 designs onto these older silver blanks, creating an impossible coin. And today, those few surviving examples are among the most breathtaking modern rarities ever discovered. The coin we're looking at now, in extra fine condition, tells that story. Washington's portrait remains strong and detailed, his hairline still visible, and that subtle silver-white shine glinting from the fields. On the reverse, the eagle's feathers are sharp, showing only light wear. To most people, it looks like a common quarter, but to collectors, it's a potential treasure worth a small fortune. Let's talk about that fortune dot in circulated condition. A confirmed silver-struck 1967 quarter has been known to fetch between $8,000 and $15,000, but in extra fine condition, where the design is crisp and the silver luster still gleams, the price leaps dramatically. Examples graded XF45 or 050 have been recorded at auction selling for $45,000 to $95,000 depending on the degree of strike and silver purity. And the record? Hold on to your seat. One verified specimen in near mint state, authenticated by NGC, reached an astonishing $325,000. That's right, a 25-cent coin, struck by mistake, selling for the price of an entire house. So, how could you possibly spot one of these in your collection? The trick is subtle but crucial. Start with the coin's edge. If you see a copper-colored core, it's the regular clad version. But if the edge is pure, uniform silver, with no trace of copper, that's your first big clue. Next, weigh it. The normal 1967 clad quarter weighs about 5.67 grams, but a silver planchet quarter should weigh closer to 6.25 grams. That small difference tells a massive story. Then there's the sound test, the famous silver ring. Drop it gently on a wooden surface. Silver sings with a high, bell-like tone that's instantly recognizable to collectors. It's the kind of sound that makes your heart race when you realize what you might have found. Now, the 1967 silver quarter has another twist that makes it even more intriguing. A few examples have been discovered with double die obverses or faint die cracks, adding an extra layer of rarity. A coin that's both silver and error struck? That's a double jackpot in the world of numismatics. Think about it, millions of 1967 quarters were struck, yet only a few handfuls of these off-metal silver errors are believed to exist. It's like finding a single grain of gold dust in a riverbed of pebbles, and what makes the story so emotional is knowing how easily these treasures could have been lost forever. Many likely ended up in circulation, spent on groceries, gas, or a cup of coffee, their value completely unnoticed. That's the charm and the heartbreak of US Mint Mysteries. So, if you happen to find a 1967 quarter that looks just a bit too bright, too heavy, or too different, don't dismiss it. You could be holding one of the most valuable transitional era errors in American history. But don't go anywhere yet, because the next coin in our countdown takes us into the 1970s, where one of the most shocking, high-value minting mistakes ever shook the entire coin collecting community. You won't believe how much this next one sold for. Moving on, let's talk about a coin that has left even seasoned collectors speechless, the 1974 silver Washington quarter. Now, most people think nothing special happened with quarters in 1974. They were all supposed to be the standard copper nickel-clad type. Millions were struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. All ordinary, all modern. But as history has shown, the mint sometimes makes mistakes that turn routine coins into jaw-dropping rarities. And that's exactly what happened here. You see, the US Mint was in transition during the early 70s, experimenting with metal compositions and preparing for commemorative silver issues. In that busy process, a few leftover 40% silver planchets likely intended for Eisenhower dollars or special collector issues somehow found their way into the quarter presses. The result? A 1974 quarter struck on a silver planchet, something that, by law, should have been impossible. Now, imagine holding one in extra fine condition, like the one we're examining today. The shine is different, not the flat gray of copper nickel, but a soft, radiant silver tone that catches the light beautifully. Washington's portrait is still well defined, with smooth wear on the hair curls and a clean, strong rim. Flip it over, and the eagle still gleams with life, its wings proud, its details clear. It's a coin that looks ordinary until you look closer. This is where the magic of discovery begins. A few sharp-eyed collectors over the years have identified these silver planchet, 1974, quarters by accident. A coin weighed heavier than normal, 6.25 grams instead of 5.67. Or maybe the edge lacked that telltale copper band. Some even noticed the bright, bell-like sound when dropped, that unmistakable silver ring. And when those coins were tested, they turned out to be real, genuine mint errors worth a fortune. Now, let's talk about that fortune. Even in circulated condition, these off-metal silver 1974 quarters can command anywhere from $10,000 to $18,000. But in extra fine condition, like this one, with strong detail and that gorgeous silver glow, the price climbs steeply. Serious collectors have paid between $65,000 and $125,000 for authenticated examples. And the highest verified auction record for a mint confirmed 1970 for silver strike, an unbelievable $410,000 for one quarter. Yes, you heard that right. $410,000 for a coin that was supposed to be worth just 25 cents. And the best part, these coins still surface occasionally, hiding in rolls, jars, or old collections, waiting to be recognized. They're ghosts from an era of experimentation, a reminder that even decades after the end of silver coinage, the mint's mix-ups still created modern-day treasure. Hides a story richer than its copper glow. The 1947D Lincoln Wheat Penny, struck at the Denver Mint. This coin might seem ordinary at first glance, but beneath its simple design lies the legacy of a post-war America, a nation rebuilding, and a mint pushing out millions of coins to fuel a booming economy. But here's the twist: while over 190 million of these pennies were made, finding one today in exceptional shape, or with a rare minting flaw, could make your heart skip a beat. The coin itself features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, his initials tucked subtly under the shoulder, a design Americans have trusted since 1909. The wheat stalks. On the reverse side, frame the words 1 cent and United States of America, a reminder of simpler times when a penny could still buy something small but sweet. Now, in fine condition, like the one we're looking at today, you can already see the charm of age. The details of Lincoln's hair and beard are gently worn, but still defined. The D mint mark beneath the date remains crisp enough to catch the eye, proof of its Denver origin. It's a coin that's seen life, maybe pass through the hands of a returning soldier, a shopkeeper, or a school kid saving up for bubblegum. Every mark tells a story. But here's where it gets interesting. Most 1947 pennies are worth just a few cents in average circulated condition. But as collectors know, not all pennies are created equal. A sharp-eyed collector who spots one with a double die, a clipped planchet, or a striking error, could be looking at a game-changer. Some examples with dramatic errors have fetched thousands, and in pristine uncirculated grades, the numbers climb sharply. Imagine uncovering a 1947 Lincoln Wheat Penny with full mint luster, no scratches, and strong details. That's the kind that can bring in as much as $25,000 or more at auction. And in rare cases, where unique minting errors meet top-tier grading, prices have soared to nearly $125,000. Yes, for a single penny that most people would have spent without a second thought. Collectors love this year because it represents the end of an era. Before the U.S. Mint transitioned toward modern production techniques, the copper composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc gives it that rich, warm tone and makes it one of the last coins to hold the true reddish-brown glow of classic American pennies. So, how can you spot a valuable one? Look carefully at the D mint mark. Some were repunched during production, a small but powerful detail that drives serious collector interest. If the mint mark appears doubled or slightly offset, that's your clue. Under magnification, that little difference could mean the difference between 1 cent and a 5-figure treasure. And here's the part that still shocks collectors today: even circulated coins like this, if they show unique die cracks or lamination errors, have brought in over $10,000 in recent private sales. Not because they're flawless, but because they tell a story of imperfection, a rare glimpse into the minting process that collectors find irresistible. So, the next time you come across a 1947 Lincoln Wheat Penny, don't dismiss it as just another old coin. You might just be holding a piece of American history worth more than you ever imagined. And who knows, your next handful of change could hide a fortune waiting to be discovered. Next up, we have a coin that seems common, until you realize just how many secrets it hides. The 1956 Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, it might look like just another old copper cent from your change drawer. But this little coin has a few tricks up its sleeve, and some of them have stunned even lifelong collectors. The year 1956 was the final full year before the U.S. Mint said goodbye to the beloved wheat reverse design. America was thriving in the post-war boom. Elvis was climbing the charts, new cars were gleaming on the roads, and in Denver and Philadelphia, the mint was striking tens of millions of these copper beauties. Most were spent and forgotten, but a few, a very few, came off the presses with something extraordinary. Now, the 1956 penny features Victor David Brenner's timeless portrait of Abraham Lincoln. That strong, familiar face, with sharp wheat stalks on the back framing 1 cent, even in fine condition. Like the one we're looking at today, you can still see Lincoln's expression clearly, with a software that tells you it's lived through decades of American history. But here's where things get exciting. While most 1956 pennies are worth just a few cents, some carry hidden errors that can launch their value into the stratosphere. One of the most famous examples is the 1956 double die obverse, a rare variety where parts of the date or lettering appear slightly double. Under magnification, the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" can look almost ghosted, like they were struck twice. And collectors go absolutely wild for that. If you happen to find one of those double die 1956 pennies in mint state, even a little bit of luster left on the fields, you could be staring at a coin worth $15,000, $30,000, or more. And for top-grade examples certified by PCGs or NGC, prices have reportedly soared past $110,000 in rare private sales. Imagine a penny that once jingled in a pocket in 1956 could today buy you a brand new car, or even pay off your mortgage, even without errors. High-grade uncirculated examples are commanding incredible prices. Coins with deep red color, no scratches, and sharp details are bringing $5,000 to $8,000 at major auctions. And the reason is simple. They're getting harder to find every single year. Copper tones fade, environmental damage takes its toll, and fewer true red wheat pennies survive with that original mint glow. For your fine condition coin, the value might not seem shocking at first glance. A few dollars perhaps, but its story is what gives it weight. It represents the last breath of the wheat penny era before the switch to the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959. Collectors know this was the end of a beautiful chapter in American coinage, which makes even circulated 1956 pennies sentimental. A final wave goodbye to a design loved for half a century. Here's a tip for collectors and hobbyists alike. Always look closely at the 1956 date under strong lighting. The doubling can be extremely subtle, and many people have passed one over without realizing what they held. Another variety to watch for is the repunched mint mark, especially the 1956D. If you see the D appearing twice, slightly shifted, you could be holding a piece worth thousands. It's the thrill of discovery that keeps coin hunters searching that tiny glimmer of copper that could change everything. And that's what makes this hobby so addictive, the idea that the next coin you check could be a once-in-a-lifetime find. So, take another look through your old penny rolls, your grandparents' jars, or those dusty coin albums. Because somewhere out there, a 1956 Lincoln Wheat Penny is waiting to surprise someone who takes the time to look just a little closer. Now, moving on to a coin that quietly hides among the rest, yet holds a history richer than most collectors realize. The 1949 Lincoln Wheat Penny. This one, in extra fine condition, is a real beauty. At first glance, it might look like just another post-war penny, but the story behind this year and the right kind of coin from it can make collectors' hearts race. The year was 1949, a time when America was stepping confidently into a new era. The scars of World War II were healing, factories were roaring, and the U.S. Mint was getting back to full production. Over 217 million pennies rolled out of the Philadelphia Mint that year, along with additional runs from Denver and San Francisco. Yet, even with so many minted, very few survived in pristine, original form. And that's what makes this coin a hidden treasure. Take a close look at this one. You can see the fine lines of Lincoln's coat, the full detail in his hair, and the sharp wheat stalks on the reverse. That's what extra fine should look like. A coin that's seen circulation, but still proudly holds onto its detail, like a window into mid-century America. Now, here's where it gets thrilling. The 1949 wheat pennies are famous for something that only dedicated collectors notice: variations in the minting quality and planchet color. Many were struck on slightly different copper alloy mixtures as the mint experimented with leftover wartime metal compositions. That small difference in tone and texture can make a huge impact on collector value. In average circulated condition, this coin might fetch only a few cents. But in extra fine condition, the kind we're seeing here, it already climbs into the $50 to $100 range among dedicated hobbyists. Step up to uncirculated, and suddenly, you're looking at $2,000 to $3,500, and that's before we even touch the rare varieties. Because here's the shocker. Among 1949 pennies, there's a rare doubled die reverse variety that's become something of a legend. On that version, the wheat stalks and the words 1 cent appear doubled under magnification, creating a ghostly shadow effect. If you find one like that in mint state, collectors have paid as high as $85,000, and in top-tier red gem condition, some experts have estimated private sale offers north of $200,000. Yes, a coin struck for 1 cent, now valued like a luxury home. But the surprises don't end there. The 1949S from San Francisco also has a unique charm. Some of those pennies show slight repunched mint marks where the S was stamped more than once, and depending on the sharpness of that error, values can range from a few hundred to several $1,000s. And even rarer still are off-center strikes and planchet clips that add another layer of mystery and value. Collectors love the 1949s for their copper tone, a rich, deep color that gleams beautifully under light when properly preserved. The alloy of 95% copper gives these coins a distinct reddish-brown hue that modern coins can't replicate. And when you hold one in extra fine condition, you're holding a survivor, a penny that's beaten the odds of time, wear, and circulation. One of the reasons these coins are becoming more desirable every year is nostalgia. For many Americans, the 1940s, wheat pennies were the coins of their childhood. Coins that bought candy, newspapers, and Saturday movie tickets. Today, they're pieces of a disappearing America, and collectors will pay dearly to own the finest examples of those memories preserved in copper.so. The next time you come across a 1949 wheat penny, look closer, especially at the reverse. A tiny doubling or an unusual mint mark might just reveal a fortune hiding in plain sight. Now, this next coin is where the story really takes a shocking turn. We're talking about the 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny, one of the most talked about, most mysterious, and most surprising pennies ever struck by the United States Mint. At first glance, your 1944 penny, in fine condition, looks like an ordinary copper cent. But this year hides one of the most unbelievable minting stories in American history. You see, 1944 was supposed to be the return of copper after the steel cents of 1943. During World War II, the mint had switched to zinc-coated steel planchets to save copper for ammunition and military needs. Americans hated them. They rusted, discolored, and were easily mistaken for dimes. So in 1944, the mint went back to copper, melting down leftover shell casings from the war. That's right, the copper in your 1944 penny might literally come from bullets fired on the battlefields of Europe or the Pacific. Now, that alone makes it a piece of living history. But here's where things get absolutely electrifying. A few 1944 pennies weren't struck on copper at all. By mistake, a small number were minted on leftover steel planchets from 1943, a minting error so rare that collectors go absolutely wild when one surfaces. These 1944 steel wheat pennies have become legendary. In fine condition. An ordinary copper 1944 penny like this one might be worth around $1 to $5. But if, by some miracle, it turns out to be one of the steel versions, you're looking at the kind of coin that can make history. One sold for nearly $115,000 at auction. Another, in near perfect and circulated condition, shocked the collecting world when it brought in over $400,000. Yes, almost $500,000 for a penny. Now, let's focus on the coin you have. In fine condition, the wear tells a story. Lincoln's hair and cheek have softened slightly, but you can still see strong detail. The wheat stalks on the reverse are visible, with light wear on the tips. The 1944 date remains bold and clear, and the warm copper tone speaks of age and authenticity. It's the kind of penny that has survived the pockets and purses of a generation that lived through war, sacrifice, and victory. But here's something most people overlook: 1944D and 1944S pennies also carry potential treasure. The Denver and San Francisco mints both had minor varieties, including doubled dies and repunched mint marks. A crisp D over D or S over S mark can easily multiply a coin's value. Even in circulated grades, some have sold for $5,000 to $10,000 just because of a subtle detail missed by the naked eye. For collectors, the 1944 penny represents a turning point, the moment America shifted from war to recovery. The fact that these coins were minted from recycled shell casings gives them emotional and patriotic weight. They're more than just old coins, they're artifacts of resilience, symbols of a nation rebuilding and moving forward. So, when you hold a 1944 wheat penny, don't just think about its copper glow, think about where it's been. It may have traveled through army pay packets, post-war shops, or the hands of a young American dreaming of a better tomorrow. And for those lucky enough to find one struck on steel, that simple penny could mean a life-changing discovery. It's no wonder collectors hunt for these with magnifying glasses and metal detectors, searching for that one-in-a-million error that hides in plain sight. Because in the world of coin collecting, one small detail can turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. And the 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny is the ultimate proof of that. Now, let's turn back the clock even further to the Great Depression era. The 1935 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a dark-toned, fine-condition coin that might not sparkle like the newer ones, but carries a deeper, more powerful kind of beauty. The beauty of survival. This coin was born during one of the hardest times in American history, when every penny truly mattered. And the fact that one still exists today, nearly 90 years later, is nothing short of remarkable. The 1935 penny comes from an age when hope was scarce, but craftsmanship was everything. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, this coin features the same enduring design, by Victor David Brenner, the face of Abraham Lincoln on the front, and two wheat stalks on the reverse, representing prosperity and unity. But there's something special about this year that makes collectors stop and take a second look. Your coin, in fine condition, shows gentle wear across Lincoln's cheek and hair, but the major features are still bold. The dark coloration, that deep, chocolate brown patina, tells its own story. It's the mark of time, oxygen, and age blending together to create a tone that many collectors actually love. That dark copper finish can often signal originality, a coin that's never been cleaned or tampered with, just naturally aged through history. Now, most 1935 pennies are common. Millions were minted. But here's the kicker, not all of them were struck perfectly. A handful came off the presses with errors so dramatic that they've shocked even experienced numismatists. The most famous of these is the 1935 double die obverse, where parts of Liberty and In God We Trust appear doubled. Spot one of those, and your penny could jump from pocket change to a showstopper worth $40,000 or more. But that's not all. There's also a 1935 off-center strike variety that collectors adore. If Lincoln's portrait is even slightly shifted to one side, say 10%, 20%, or more, that's a mint error that can fetch anywhere from $2,000 up to $15,000, depending on the percentage of the off-center strike and how clean the surfaces are. Even a clipped planchet or a minor die crack can make this humble penny a collector's prize. And let's talk about color, because the tone of a coin can change everything. In numismatics, color is graded as red RD, red-brown RB, or brown BN. A 1935 penny with full original red luster, untouched by time, can command massive premiums, $10,000 to $30,000 or more for high mint state examples. But a dark brown penny like yours, rich and natural, can still charm collectors with its originality. In fine condition, it might sell for $5 to $25. But its story, its connection to the 1930s, makes it priceless to the right enthusiast. This coin circulated in a time when bread cost 5 cents, gasoline was 10, and families saved every coin they could find. It's entirely possible that this very penny helped someone buy food during the Depression, or was tucked away by a child collecting change in hopes of better days. Every scratch, every shade of dark copper is a whisper from that era, a reminder of how much 1 cent used to mean. What makes the 1935 penny so exciting today is that many collectors underestimate it. They assume it's common, unworthy of attention, and that's exactly why treasures slip through unnoticed. Every few years, another collector finds a rare 1935 era variety hidden in an old album or bankroll, selling for tens of thousands. And each time it happens, the legend of the 1935 wheat penny grows stronger. So, if you have one, especially a naturally dark, fine condition coin like this, hold on to it. Check for subtle doubling, inspect the rims, and never clean it. Its story, its tone, its imperfections. That's what gives it soul. And sometimes, the coins that look the most ordinary on the outside hold the most extraordinary secrets within. Now, Let's talk about a coin that often hides in plain sight, the 1953 Lincoln Wheat Penny. A coin struck during a booming post-war America, when the country was growing, dreaming big, and unknowingly minting one of the most collectible series of wheat pennies ever made. At first glance, it might not seem special, but your 1953 penny in extra fine condition could be far more valuable than most people realize. The year 1953 was a time of confidence. Eisenhower was president. Television was taking over living rooms, and Americans were saving coins in little blue Whitman folders, building collections without knowing they might be holding small fortunes. And among those shiny new copper cents rolling out of the Denver Mint, some carried secrets worth thousands. In your extra fine example, the beauty is easy to see. The detail in Lincoln's hair and beard remains strong, the lettering crisp, and those signature wheat stalks on the reverse are still sharp and proud. The D mint mark under the date glints slightly, a reminder of Denver's exceptional coin production. The warm, reddish-brown tone adds even more charm. It's a coin that's been cared for, not forgotten. But here's where collectors start paying close attention. The 1953 Wheat Penny is notorious for having several fascinating minting varieties, and those small details can transform this everyday coin into a stunning payday. One of the most sought after is the repunched mint mark, known as the D over D on these rare pieces. The Denver D was accidentally punched more than once, leaving behind a visible double impression. Under magnification, it looks like a shadow or echo beneath the main mint mark. And that tiny flaw? It can make your coin worth $10,000, $20,000, or even more in uncirculated grades. Then there's the 1953 double die obverse, an even scarcer variety. In this version, parts of the date and the word liberty show distinct doubling, a striking error that collectors consider one of the most beautiful accidents in Lincoln cent history. If you spot one in top condition, it's not just valuable, it's historic. High-end examples have shocked auction houses, with final prices soaring above $90,000, and one immaculate specimen fetched over $150,000 after a bidding war between two determined collectors, even without major errors. This coin has seen steady appreciation in value. Extra fine examples like yours often trade in the $25 to $50 range. But coins with their original reddish luster can command $2,000 to $3,000 or more. And flawless red gems, untouched by time, have sold for well over $30,000. The reason? The 1950s were the tail end of the classic wheat penny era, and collectors know these coins marked the last true decade of Lincoln's wheat reverse before the memorial design took over in 1959. What makes this coin even more intriguing is its connection to Denver's minting history. The 1953 run saw minor die misalignments and striking pressure inconsistencies, leading to soft details on some coins and crisp perfection on others. Spotting one of the bold struck pieces with full details can make a world of difference in grading and value. Imagine finding a flawless 1953D with full red color, clean fields, and sharp lettering. That coin could easily be worth more than $75,000, maybe even six figures if it carries a dramatic minting variety. It's the kind of penny that turns heads at coin shows and leaves even veteran collectors whispering, "Where did that one come from?" So if you've got a 1953D in your collection, or maybe tucked away in an old coin jar, pull it out and take a closer look. Check that D under the date. Look for doubling or signs of a repunched mint mark. Because sometimes, what looks like an ordinary cent from the 1950s could be the key to a collector's dream come true. And now, we've arrived at our final coin, one that quietly bridges the past and the present. The 1939 Lincoln Wheat Penny, in extra fine condition. At first glance, it may seem calm, even humble, but beneath that soft copper glow lies one of the most quietly powerful stories in American coinage. Picture this. It's 1939. The Great Depression is finally easing. The economy is starting to breathe again, and storm clouds are already gathering over Europe as World War II looms on the horizon. Back home, the United States Mint is still producing coins that carry both history and hope. coins that would circulate through one of the most defining decades in our nation's story. And among them, the 1939 Lincoln Wheat Penny stands as a piece of that turning point. A coin that has outlived generations, wars, and revolutions in technology, all while keeping its simple beauty intact. Now, your 1939 penny in extra fine condition is something special. Lincoln's profile remains sharp, his cheek and hairline well defined. The fields around him are clean and bright with only slight wear, while the reverse wheat stalks still show solid texture from top to bottom. This is what collectors love, a coin that's seen life, yet still shines with dignity and detail. The copper tone, somewhere between red-brown and golden bronze, is the color of history itself. But here's where it gets fascinating. The 1939 Lincoln cent was struck at 3 mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and each has its quirks. The Philadelphia coins, like yours, have no mint mark, but they boast incredible strike quality. Some show slight doubling in the date or lettering, creating what collectors call a double die obverse. And these subtle variations are where the real magic and money begin. Most 1939 pennies in circulated grades are worth only a few cents, maybe $1 or $2 at best. But an extra fine coin like this one starts rising fast. $25, $50, sometimes even over $100, depending on its color and clarity. Step up to uncirculated red examples, and you're in the $1,500 to $3,000 range. But when a rare variety enters the picture, like a 1939 double die or an over-polished die with striking detail loss, that value can skyrocket. Some examples have fetched well over $45,000 at major auctions. And there's another secret: off-metal strikes. Once in a while, a Lincoln cent from 1939 was accidentally struck on the wrong metal planchet, for instance, on a silver dime blank or even a foreign coin planchet. These mistakes are the stuff of legend. A confirmed 1939 off-metal strike once sold for nearly $200,000, a record few collectors thought possible for that era. Imagine finding a penny like that, tucked inside an old cigar box or forgotten coin jar. A life-changing surprise, hiding in plain sight. Collectors love the 1,939 seconds for their consistency, their beautifully made coins, struck with precision just before the mint began its wartime metal changes in the early 1940s. In other words, they represent the final calm before the storm. And holding one in your hand, in extra fine condition, feels like holding that very moment. When America was on the edge of change, even the dark patina and subtle luster variations tell a story. That sheen isn't just metal. It's the memory of hands that used it, a reminder of how far a single cent could go in 1939. It might have bought a cup of coffee, a newspaper, or a child's piece of candy. Tiny moments that now live on in a coin that collectors treasure for both beauty and nostalgia. So if you have a 1939 Lincoln Wheat Penny, don't overlook it. Look closer. Check every detail. The date, the lettering, the rims. Because while many see it as just another old penny, those who understand its history know it's something far greater, a piece of time itself. And that's the magic of coin collecting, isn't it? What starts as pocket change can turn into a priceless connection to our past. From 1947 to 1939, each of these Lincoln Wheat Pennies tells a story of America, its triumphs, its mistakes, and its enduring legacy etched in copper.